back to Chris Paul. So, more Shams reporting that Chris Paul and Ty Lue were not on speaking terms for several weeks leading up to this move, and that his leadership style clashed with Ty Lue and the Clippers. All right, Lou, I'm going to start with you, obviously, on this one. Did any of that change anything, stuff that you already knew? What do you think about the latest reports?
Yeah, not too much change for me. At this point, everything gets magnified when you're losing basketball games, and the Clippers are doing that right now. They're in a tough run. They look bad as a basketball team, and they've taken accountability there, and they've recognized that. They got a good win in Atlanta last night. That's the start of good things. But when it comes to Chris Paul and it comes to Ty Lue, and you're talking about culture, like when you're not winning games and you got a guy in the locker room and his name isn't Kawhi Leonard and it's not James Harden, and he's trying to get everybody on the same page, and you don't know what his tone or context is when he's trying to do this day in and day out, from the staff, from the locker room to, all things. Everybody knows that Chris Paul has been this type of leader his entire career. He's always been boisterous and always has been opinionated, has always been a captain, a leader, somebody whose voice, has been taken into consideration. When he speaks, people listen. And when you get to a certain place in your career, if the squeeze ain't worth the juice, you get into a scenario where people don't really want to hear you talk or what you got to say, especially when you're on a team with a bunch of veterans. Like there's not a lot of young guys on this Clippers team, right? Like it's not a rookie or second year, a bunch of young guys that Chris Paul can run around and put his arm around and push them forward. No, all of these guys are peers of his. All of these guys are veterans just as much as he is. And so when you're losing, and some of these guys have been on this roster, a number of years at this point, and Chris comes in and he has a bunch to say, has a bunch of bossing around to do, that can be taken the wrong way, or guys just simply ain't trying to hear it. Ty Lue probably just wasn't trying to hear it. And so, seeing Chris yesterday on FaceTime with Blake and DJ. I actually was on the phone with DJ when that call came in, and he had to get off the phone with me. Looked like he's in good spirits, man. It looked like he's in good spirits, and I'm making that judgment based off of just seeing him smile from a screenshot. I haven't heard anything from him, but that's my assessment of the situation. When you're not the Chris Paul that everybody's accustomed to seeing, and you can't go out there on the floor and put those numbers on the board that guys are used to you seeing, but you got a lot to say and trying to hold people accountable, it could be taken the wrong way, or guys just simply ain't trying to hear it. In my opinion, that looked like that's what the situation was with this Clippers team.
Yeah, I think Lou hit it on the head there. And I don't think Chris Paul went here to ruffle any feathers. I don't think he went there with the intent to kind of shake up the locker room and be this powerful voice, like the dean of students. Like this is just always how Chris Paul has been. He's always been an extension of the coaching staff. He's always been a leader. He's always been very vocal. And I just don't think his message, at this point of his career, it didn't sit well, like Lou said, with this vet locker room. Like, especially when you're not playing and we're losing. Like, you think James Harden wants to hear anything after losing again and again, and frustration keeps boiling over and over? So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here, but clearly there was issues that stemmed from this, and there were frustrations. And I think just simply sending him home kind of just clears the air and makes it more comfortable and more enjoyable to go to work every day, because clearly there was some sort of issues with that. Now, on the flip side, this is Chris Paul. This is why you brought him here, for that kind of leadership. This is what he is, a Hall of Fame player that deserves ears and respect and to listen. And another, like I said, an extension of the coach. My last year in Atlanta, I had Vince Carter in this similar role with Atlanta, and he did the same thing. The difference is that team was super young and they were rebuilding, and they accepted it. They took his advice. They loved Vince Carter. This current roster of a bunch of vet guys, like Lou said, his peers, they probably weren't rolling, and they probably were like, yo, pipe down. Like, you're not even playing. Like, and it was probably annoying to hear that every single day. So I see both sides, but I know if I'm on that team, I'm listening to a guy like Chris Paul, who's had so much success and who brought this franchise to where they are now, and arguably, not even arguably, he's the best Clipper of all time. So I think he deserved that right to have a voice. I just didn't think it sat well with that locker room, clearly.
It's hard for me to unpack this whole situation. but me reading between the lines, I don't get caught up in the quotes and all that. I try to read between the lines, and for me, this is all one big ego trip. It's hard for me to register, one, why you have a problem with leadership and accountability. If you came into this season talking about we want to compete for a championship, when you compete for a championship, all of those things come with it. It's going to be hard conversations. It's going to be conversations that you don't want to hear. It's going to be days where your leader is chirping at you and you just got to accept it. So I'm confused. And then I also read to where, it ended up being a surprise to James Harden and Kawhi that this even happened. But then at the same time, they're putting out that the players didn't like what he had to say. So I'm confused. Like, if those are your two star players, if they aren't complaining about his leadership or his voice, then it doesn't matter. Nobody else matters. Yeah, I don't care if Zubac doesn't like. I don't care if Nicholas Batum doesn't like. You're just a guy that's on the team. You're here to be led. That's it. So this is smoke and mirrors for me. This is one big ego trip.
Do you think someone's lying, Boogie? Like,
either
the players,
like the NBA, they're always lying.
I'll tell you this.
I'm saying, like Kawhi and James say they're surprised.
They throw rocks and hide. This is typical NBA behavior. Like, this makes
there's a spin
and
involved.
then on top of this, this is a guy, like we've said, this is a guy that's the best player to ever come through your franchise. You know exactly who he is. This isn't something that just started this season. You've enabled this behavior his entire career. You signed him at the beginning of the season. You know exactly who he is. You know exactly what he brings. And a month in, 2 months in, all of a sudden, what he brings is a negative or an issue. Like, I'm confused. It literally makes no sense.
What we all can agree on, and we don't have to get into who's right, who's wrong, who's lying, who's not lying, how it was handled. That's as former players, that's what we're frowning upon. You don't do that. You don't do that in this manner to a guy who's like you said, he's the best Clipper of all time. He's the guy that's going to be the jersey that you retire first, and he's back in your uniform. He came home to have this feel good story to go down, right? And so when you do that, it looks bad as an organization to do that to this particular guy. And now the news is coming out that they were gonna have a conversation on Tuesday opposed to Sunday when all of this happened. He deserves the respect to stop for a second, wait till we get home. Let's have a face-to-face. If we can't get on the same page with this face-to-face, then we move on. I think we all can agree on that part, right?
Yeah. No doubt.
100%.
And I think we also can agree that a decision like this is not made without Kawhi Leonard and James Harden being somewhat aware. Like, I'm not accusing anybody of lying, but those are the two best players.
But you're not shocked.
They're making all the money. They knew or approved that this was going to happen. And like Lou said, a little transparency, a little conversation or dialogue that you have with a guy like Chris Paul. And I don't care if it was supposed to happen and then the plane got delayed. Like, have the conversation on the plane, have the conversation on the bus, have some sort of respect where you at least get on the same page, and this Hall of Fame player doesn't feel blindsided where the only reason he's even in this situation is because he wanted to retire a Clipper and come home, be close to his family, and be with the franchise that he put on the map. So like the optics of it are bad. The business of it is bad. There's no excuse. And Lawrence Frank, he did go up there and he took the stand, and he said he has nothing to do with the lack of wins and the struggles that the Clippers have had. That's obvious. So at least he addressed that. I just wish that they would have come up with something. Let him step away from the team. Let him have family issues that he needs to. Let him do anything other than an Instagram story being like, I just got sent home with a peace emoji. It's just bad. It doesn't look good. And I just think a guy like Chris Paul, any player really, deserves just open transparency and dialogue.
And to piggyback off of that, I just want to go on record saying that I'm really disappointed in T. Lue and how he's handled this situation. It's starting to become a pattern. I've experienced it. He's been on record talking about how me and him didn't talk for a while. I saw him do it to Rajon Rondo the same year that we were there. Now you're doing it to Chris Paul. It was rumblings that you did it to John Wall. So it's starting to become a pattern as to how he deals with his players, and it's a big gray area that it's not making sense. And to brand yourself, as a player's coach, you're not really showing those tendencies with these patterns that are continuing to happen. So that's my issue with T. Lue. Like, a lot of guys got a lot of respect for you and a lot of love for you. You did it on both sides. So, love and respect for that. But we have to bring attention to how he's handling these relationships year after year with these different players. It's just not making sense, and I'm disappointed.
I go on the opposite side of you, Boogie, because that wasn't my experience with T. Lue. Like, from top to bottom, his communication with the players that were on the groups. When I was there with him, the communication was good. There was no issues with players. He didn't isolate himself from the team. You know how some coaches, they make it an environment where it's the coaches versus the players type of environment and vibe. That wasn't what T. Lue did for the groups that I was on. Now, the groups that I was on, we were very collaborative. If there was an issue, we sat down, we had conversations, and we moved on. Now,
are we talking starting five, or are we talking about the entire group?
Talking about everybody. Yeah, we're talking about everybody. That's why I'm saying that wasn't my experience. And I'm the sixth man. I'm coming off the bench, so I always represent the underdogs. You know what I'm saying? I always represent them, but that just wasn't my experience. He poured into everybody from top to bottom. We had a team, we had a group with Kawhi, we had a group with PG and other guys and young guys that wasn't getting a lot of playing time, but the morale was up, the building was lively, and everybody was excited and happy to be there. And we were on a mission, we were on a journey all together, coaching staff and front office included, we felt like, so that was your experience. That was my experience. So I just wanted to give balance to that.
Absolutely.
All of this is crazy because when you think about Chris Paul last year with San Antonio and all the talk about he's definitely going to be a coach one day, this is a crazy way for this to all play out for a guy who we assume is going to coach in some capacity at some point. I just find all of it fascinating. Do want to get grades on the FaceTime post. As far as look, not a Chris Paul fan. I give this 1,000. This is such an amazing moment.
CP a smart man. He said, you know what? I'm going to call up the Avengers. I'm going to call up the Clippers Avengers. And I'm going to get my guys on the phone. And we finna start this PR. This PR train right now.
Exactly,
and I'm going to spin this thing in my direction. I'm spinning this thing.
No caption needed. This is brilliant.
This was a direct shot to the fan base. Like, look, don't forget who the real Clippers are. Don't forget the squad that put us on the map. I'm still homies with them. And this current team is bullshit anyways. And just remember the Lob City years with me and those good times we had. And then posting the video of Lob City, the story, FaceTime. This was a nice calculated play here just to remind everybody that that's the real Clippers and that's who the fans love, not this current team.
It was a pretty relatable moment, even if you don't like the dude. Like, it was well done and perfect. Okay, so I guess, Chandler, let's talk really quickly on whether or not, his age. We all know he wanted to be back in LA, he wanted to be next to his family, all the things that come with it. I guess you could go to the Lakers, but that wouldn't happen for a while anyways. So what do you think? Predict it now, what happens with Chris Paul.
I don't know, but for some reason, I don't think he's done. I think I can't help but see a year ago how he was a valuable asset on the Spurs. And I think he obviously came to the Clippers with hopes to have some sort of role and impact. And that didn't happen. But whatever he decides to do, obviously he's a first ballot Hall of Famer and he's one of the greatest point guards of all time. But I just don't see him being done. I see a lot of teams across the league that are going to be in the playoffs and they're championship contenders that could use a guy like him. And knock on wood, there's never no more injuries, but those things happen. And Chris Paul is just sitting there and can still help a team and can still help a locker room. Maybe not a vet locker room that's losing every other night, but they can help a growing franchise that is trying to get to the next level. I would take that risk, and I don't even think it's a risk to go get Chris Paul if I'm Minnesota, if I'm Orlando, if I'm Houston.
Does he want to do that though? Does he want to?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I just don't think his body and his mind is done playing basketball yet. I really don't.
I think we've seen the last of Chris Paul, and my opinion being, I've had several conversations with him about this, and on camera, off camera, we've had this conversation. And just recently he sat down with me at Media Day And, you know, our conversations have always been centered around, at this stage in his career, how important him being around his family and his kids and them getting into activities, his son getting into basketball, being really good at basketball, him missing so many different events and moments for his kids and not being with his wife. That is extremely important to CP3 at this point in his life. He's expressed that to me, you know, and that was 98% of the reason he wanted to be a Clipper or be in Los Angeles in general, is to be closer to his family. So, you know, with him being in Los Angeles with the Clippers for this short stint and now have an opportunity to go somewhere else, he's gotten used to being at home. He's gotten used to being at events. He's gotten used to seeing his son, having a presence in his young career as a player and being that mentor as a dad, as he should be. I don't know if he goes back out on the road and tries to find another job to finish this thing out, especially with him saying that he's going to retire at the end of this year anyways. And I also asked him, are you at peace with your career? Are you at peace with everything that you've been able to accomplish and do? And he said he was. He was happy with how everything played out. Obviously, we all can accomplish more things and do more things, but, you know, it didn't pan out that way. But at the end of the day, he said that he was at peace and he was comfortable if his career ended on that day when we had that conversation. So for those reasons, I don't think he goes out and looks for another job unless it's in purple and gold or Sacramento or somewhere close by where he can still be close to home.
Oh, this is a crazy one. Go ahead, Boogie.
I can see it going both ways. And the reason I say that, one, he deserves another chance. He deserves to go out, you know, the right way. And I'm actually hoping that he goes out the right way because he was that great to the game. So that's why I say that. But also, you know, something that hasn't really been talked about. He's ruffled a lot of feathers throughout his career. And, you know, people don't forget things. You know what I mean? And one thing about it, once people kind of get that chance to get back at you, they'll do that. And as we see now, as much greatness, as much positivity he's brought to this game, as much greatness and positivity he's brought to different organizations, winning ways, it always comes to a point where they turn on you. And this is exactly what's happening now. Now, all of a sudden, when you speak on Chris Paul and it's about him finding another situation, his voice is too strong, his personality. This is where the tables start to turn. And now all of a sudden, the only thing he can bring to a team is negativity. So I don't like it. I don't agree with it. But this is how this thing works. Once they're done with you, they're done with you. And this may be the results of that.
God, these life lessons with Boogie are getting tougher and tougher each day. I'm getting depressed, Boogie. We're taking a quick break. Hey, real basketball. Let's talk about that on the other
44
side.
minutes talking about two dudes.
Run it back, run it up.